Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. We are nearing completion now. So we are on chapter 14 today. We will complete chapter 14. Then 4 more chapters to go, 15, 16, 17, and 18. 15th chapter after today will be a pretty important chapter. 16 and 17 are short. 15 is the shortest chapter, just like chapter 12, but extremely, extremely important. You all might have heard chapter 15. I'm just giving a preview of next time. And 16 and 17 are very important chapters, but we might cover them quickly, maybe in one session, 2 chapters. And then chapter 18 will be the last one. So we are nearing completion. So I will make an announcement as well about what next to continue the journey. But before we start all of those discussions, let us do chapter 14. First things first. So I will share my screen and then we can okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenbandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right. So let us now switch to the slides. All right. Here are the slides. One sec. Okay. Great. So we are in chapter 14. All right. So this chapter, so again, all of the people on the call, Zoom call, and here. I hope you all have your Bhagavad Gitas with you, just like I have. And pay careful attention. It's a very important chapter. Also, turn on your camera if that is possible. If not possible, then fine. And let's continue. So this chapter is called the three modes of material nature. So it's a very important chapter. Very quickly, in the next few slides, I will describe the importance of this chapter. Why is Krishna talking about this chapter or the contents here? So let's get straight into it. You all know what are the three modes, right? The three gunas. What are the three gunas? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So we'll see the whole science or the whole discussion behind this. Okay, so let's go into it. Adi Shankaracharya, who divided the Bhagavad Gita into chapters and gave titles to each chapter, gave this chapter the title Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. So the Gita Press edition of Bhagavad Gita, that the titles of chapters that it carries in Sanskrit, these are called, those are the standard titles given by Adi Shankaracharya. It's called Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. I have the Gita Press edition somewhere. Anyway, somewhere there. Okay. So, but Srila Prabhupada has given the English titles. So, what is the theme of this chapter? The theme of this chapter is, it's the same essence as before. Okay, like I said, this is the third section of Bhagavad Gita, which we started last week on chapter 13. Lord Krishna is now giving an integrated understanding of Jnana that was sort of covered in the first 6 chapters, and Bhakti. So Jnana through Bhakti. So we will see how nicely we can understand Jnana with the eyes of Bhakti, because these are not two different things. Ultimately, in your life, you have one life and you have to follow one process. If you have a disease, you follow one prescription. You don't follow one from one doctor, one from the other, then your body will be a mess. Similarly, your spiritual life, you don't want to mess it up by following multiple processes. But Lord Krishna is showing that the process of Jnana and Bhakti are no different. It's the process of Bhakti with Bhakti Jnana. With the knowledge of Bhakti, you do Bhakti. If you're not intelligent, if you're not so analytical, you don't want to care about the knowledge, then just follow the prescription, just like a disease. Normal people who have disease, chota mota, cold, cough, doctor gives you a prescription, you just take it. God forbid if you have cancer or something. Don't you do all the research first? You go to one doctor, you go to another, you go to another, you hear very carefully, you do your own research thanks to Google these days. And then you pick one prescription and you follow. If you are so smart or so intelligent, let's say a person in the village, he will still, if he has cancer, he will still go to the best doctor, and he doesn't have the knowledge to do all the research, but will still follow the best doctor's advice, and it will work. The treatment will still work, whether the person who has done the research or the person who has not done the research. The body is the same. If he is taking the same medicine, the person who has done the research is not gonna, the medicine is not gonna work any better on him, isn't it? It will work the same. But he had the knowledge to analyze, and in his mind, he feels more confident to follow that treatment. In this case, the other person doesn't have a choice, and he still follows the treatment because he knows that the disease is deadly. Somebody may not even know that I have a disease. In that case, the end of the day, disease will kill him. Are you following? So that is the process of Bhakti Jnana. For those that are interested in Bhakti Jnana, great, it is available. Analyze it all you want. The benefit for those who can analyze is that it gives more confidence. It gives more faith in the process. Okay, wow, now I understand how it works, and this person is telling me to follow it. I'm going to follow it with full dedication. Isn't it? That's how it works, isn't it? With I just gave the example of medicine. Makes sense? So that is the point of this whole section. So same essence as before, the message will be the same, which means the answer will still be the same as of Bhakti or the Bhakti Yoga section. The message is the same as the Bhakti Yoga section, but in a different, completely different context through the eyes of the three modes of material nature. So this chapter will describe how does one get entangled in the material world. Some very interesting concepts will come. And it is also related to, and how does one stay entangled in the material world, goes from one body to the other and stays entangled. How to get out of the material world, which is what has been discussed already through Bhakti Yoga. And what is the best platform to get out of the material world? What is the best situation to be in to get out of the material world? Like if you want to treat a deadly disease like cancer, the best place is to be situated close to the best hospital, right? In, I don't know, in India, maybe, you know, whatever in Bombay, there's that Tata Memorial Cancer Specialty Institute. Well, if your house is right next to it, then you're in the best position to get treatment. Otherwise, you have to do a whole bunch of things and, you know, work things out. So what is the best platform to get out of the material world? Now, in the previous chapter, if you remember where we left off, the discussion was of how a large part of the discussion towards the end was the glory and the conclusion of the knowledge, the beauty of the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. Why doesn't one take to it? The link between chapter 13 and 14 is this. Why does one doesn't take to the spiritual knowledge is because of his entanglement in the material world. Then the next question is, how did I get entangled? Why am I not interested in this spiritual knowledge? So that this chapter will try to answer, and how to get out of it. Okay, so you will see here that how knowledge is a outcome, or the desire to develop knowledge, any kind of knowledge. First, it starts from, I'm kind of going into the contents of chapter 14, how the desire for obtaining knowledge that is helpful. Everybody wants to obtain knowledge that is helpful to him or her, isn't it? Maybe you are learning some knowledge which will help you in your career. If you have a disease, you want to obtain knowledge that will cure the disease. You want to ask other people who is the best doctor. That's knowledge. Knowledge about the best doctor, referrals is knowledge, so that you can go to him. Or the desire to obtain any kind of knowledge, whether to make your material life better or make your spiritual progress better. Ultimately, that desire to obtain knowledge is what is missing, which we will discuss that's one of the central points of this chapter, how the mode of goodness is sort of the result of being in the mode of goodness is the desire to develop knowledge. And then one realizes, okay, this material knowledge is not benefiting me. It's keeping me still in the same old cycle, little bit better than others, but I want the higher knowledge. So that's the link between the 13th chapter, the last section it was all about transcendental knowledge. And here, why don't we want to obtain? And how to come to the best platform to obtain knowledge, material knowledge, then spiritual knowledge, and then liberation. Okay, so that's sort of the general structure of the chapter. Now that I'm saying all this from my head, or I should have probably put it into slides. So for next batch, I might do that. It's always a constant process of learning. So maybe if I remember, I do try to watch last year's videos to make the next year's slides. And every time I keep telling my wife, oh, next time I'll just reuse the slides, but then I end up remaking them. And then she says, yo, you spent 6-7 hours just on making the same old slides that why don't you use the last year's one? I said, you know, there's a subtle difference. some new addition there is. Okay, so we will start with chapter 14 at this point, 1 and 2, first 2 verses. Param bhuyah pravakshami jnanam jnanam uttamam. So bhuyah. Bhuyah means again. Same word he used at the beginning of chapter 10. That again I am telling. So it's not something that, oh, Jnanam uttamam. So was Krishna lying when he said chapter 9 is the topmost knowledge, chapter 12 is the topmost knowledge? No, it is the same topmost jnana, but in a different context. Bhuyah shows that Krishna is not, or don't think that, somebody is confused. Krishna is confused or the Srila Prabhupada is confused. Krishna is already saying, again, I'm telling you the topmost knowledge. Bhuyah, param bhuyah pravakshami. So bhuyah means again I'm telling you this. You got to hammer the point into the head of the student, the important point. The topmost knowledge needs to be told again and again. Bhuyah, the topmost knowledge. Pravakshami jnanam jnanam uttamam. Jnanam means among all the jnanas, jnanam uttamam, the topmost jnana among jnanas, among the various types of jnana. I'm going to talk to you. And that is, now I am telling you this, and there Lord Krishna is saying, yad, in the second verse, he's saying, yeah, idam jnanam upashritya. This jnana upashritya means taking shelter of this jnana, you will, he says that, so many times, in 3 ways he says, Mama sadharmya agataha, you will come to my nature. Sarge api na upajayante, at the time of creation you won't get created. Pralaye na vyathanticha, at the time of pralaya you will not get dissolved. Again, this doesn't mean jiva is created. So I didn't, it's a subtle point. Creation means jiva enters into Mahavishnu's body, comes out. So that's the meaning of upajayante and vyathanti. So just for those who are super microscopic in their understanding. But the point is, by taking shelter of this knowledge, one gets liberated. One goes to Krishna. Okay. So that is verse number 1 and 2. So again, it is not new topmost knowledge. That was also, there are not 5 topmosts. There is one topmost, but looking from different angles. Clear? Okay. Now Krishna starts telling that whole thing from a different context. So possibility of jivas, it's a deep concept. Possibility of jiva. So first 2 verses are going deep into the origin of jivas. Maybe interesting to you. Origin of jiva, what does it mean? Origin, aha, there's an origin. Origin means birth. But we said jiva is anadi, no birth. So remember that whole discussion. Time itself is a material energy. In a spiritual or outside of material world, time itself has no meaning. And this is a hard concept to understand. Remember that whole discussion. So what Lord Krishna says is that, if you see here, possibility of jiva, that's the best we can say. Sambhavaha sarva bhutanam. A jiva is possible. Is not created, but yet Krishna is the origin. He says here, Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham. Okay. So what he's saying is that I am the father. Okay. Garbham dadami aham. In the garbha, you all understand garbha? Womb. What is garbha? Mahad Brahma. Mahad Brahma means this material nature is the garbha. Dadami aham or dadhami aham. Dadhami means impregnation. I impregnate. Who impregnates the womb? In material understanding, who impregnates the womb? The father, right? So the father is Krishna. Aham. Dadhami aham. I am impregnating material nature with all the, and this is how sambhava sarva bhutana. Bhuta means who? Living entities. All the living entities become possible. Now you can also, some simpler translation, sambhava means take birth. But it doesn't mean that jivas take birth at a certain point on a time scale. Now I cannot explain beyond this. this is where I will stop this explanation that yes, jivas do take birth. Krishna is the father. Mother nature is the mother. But we all, with this understanding, we say, okay, what's your date of birth? Father impregnates the mother, and then you have a date of birth. But there is no date of birth. The concept of date itself doesn't exist when we have taken birth. So yes, we have taken birth because we have a mother and a father, but there we don't have a date of birth. It is confusing, but this is where we cannot go beyond this. This is where it stops. Okay, just like, for example, we cannot say what is the fourth, fifth, sixth dimensions. It's just not possible for our material mind to understand. Okay. Tato bhavati bharata. So this is how the jivas come into existence or become possible. That's what we will say. That's what Srila Prabhupada also says here. Sambhava, the possibility of a jiva comes into being. Okay. So material world is the womb. Yonir Mahat Brahma. The yoni is Mahat Brahma. Mahat Brahma means the material nature. Okay. Depending on the usage of the word Brahma, it has 4 contexts. If for those who have the physical book, not Veda base, you can go to the glossary at the back of your Bhagavad Gita. The printed Bhagavad Gita will have a glossary. And in that, you will see the word Brahma, Brahman. It has 4 meanings. The individual soul, the impersonal, all-pervasive aspect of the Supreme personality of Godhead, and the 4th one is the Mahat Tattva. That Mahat Tattva, which is qualified with the Mahat Brahman, is what is being referred to in 14.3. So it's not that Brahman, the spiritual entity Brahman. It is Mahat Brahman. That one is known as Ananda Brahman. There are specific names for this. Okay. So Ananda Brahman is that spiritual Brahman, the all-pervading spiritual Brahman. The jiva, which is Brahman, the spiritual living entity, that Brahman is known as Jiva Brahman. The material world is known as Mahat Brahman. And that's the exact word that is used in 14.3, Mahat Brahman. So here we understand Mahat Brahman as being the material world or the material nature, which is impregnated by Krishna. So Krishna is the father and material nature is the mother. No doubt, no wonder we call nature as mother nature. We don't say father nature. But anyway, I don't know whether they took it from Bhagavad Gita or Bible or where, but it's a true statement. Nature is mother nature. Clear? Okay. So Krishna says, I pregnate that womb. Tasmin garbham dadhami aham. Okay. That womb I impregnate. Good with this? So Krishna is the father and his energy, material nature, is the mother. Okay. Then Krishna talks about various species. Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtayah sambhavanti yah tasam brahma mahad yonir bija aham bija pradah pita. Another very, very important shloka. This is also one of the memorization shlokas in the advanced level course that we do. You have to memorize this shloka because it has some very key points embedded in this shloka. So let us see. I'm just going to expand out all of the points. So, Sarva Yonishu Sambhavanti. So I'm skipping a word there. Kaunteya Murtayaha. So various species become possible. Yonis means what? Species, right? So Yoni means womb actually, but from a tiger's womb, who will be born? Tiger. From a monkey's womb, who will be born? A monkey. So the type of womb is indicative of the species that will be born. All right. So Sarva Yonishu Sambhavanti. All these various yonis or various species in this context, yoni means species. The literal meaning of yoni is womb, but I'm explaining you how that is in this fitting in this verse. Sambhavanti, become possible. And then Kaunteya, my dear Arjuna, Murtayaha, in various bodily forms. Okay. So each yoni has a special, characteristic. A fish can swim in the water. You take it out of the water, it will die. If I put you into the water, you will die, because you like air, fish likes water. Fish does not like air, you do not like water. So every yoni has our birds, they can fly. If I push you from the building, you will not be able to fly, you will crash. So every yoni will have a different characteristic, different various things. Dogs can smell things which you can't smell. Who can listen to various frequencies? Bats, yes, that's the one. And dolphins also. They communicate through these frequencies which are inaudible to human ear. So each one has a speciality which others don't have. Right? So owls can see in the night. You cannot see in the night, or somebody else cannot see in the night. So each one has a special whatever thing. So sarva yonishu kaunteya murtayaha means different bodily forms. Murti means forms. So they take different forms, or they are given different forms. Again, Krishna is saying tasam brahma mahad. Again, mahad brahma yonir. So the material nature is the mother. Aham bija pradah pita. He could have said aham pita. Now here is another important point, that bija pradah, seed giving father. Okay? So you all have heard the word father. Have you heard the word grandfather? Yes. Great grandfather. What is common in all these words? Father. But is the grandfather the seed giving father of the child? Does he give the seed in the mother's womb? No. Who is that? The direct father. This is a direct refutation of Darwinism. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita does not believe in Darwinism. And Darwinism itself is on very shaky grounds. Now, of course, there is some truth to it. There are some, random mutations that happen, some, changes that can occur. Things have been proved, but nobody has shown in the lab that one species can result in a totally different species. Yes, by some kind of mutation, you can convert a seeded mango into a seedless mango, or a small seed mango. Fine. But you cannot convert a mango into a pear or an orange. Never been shown scientifically. Okay. So what Krishna is saying, I am the father of all species. All species are coming from me. Some, in some people who are kind of, some scientists who are apologetic about science, they'll say, oh, God created the first being, whoever it is. And then like amoeba or cells, whatever. And then evolution is true. So they're trying to kind of put, their leg in both. Okay, I'm a God believing person, but I believe that only the first species came. Then from there on, everything evolved. Bija pradah pita of all yoni murtis. It's very specific. Yoni murti, various forms of various species. I am the seed giving father. Okay. So, and we can have a long discussion. I have done a lot of research. I'm sorry, I have done zero research. I have read about a lot of research by some, and I will show you this book here. These two books are this book is written by Michael Cremo and Richard L. Thompson. Richard L. Thompson, again, is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He was one of the, I would say arguably one of the best scientists of his time. And I have his picture over there. I highly respect him. I have read all his books. It's called Forbidden Archeology. And this book was actually, banned by the scientific community. And there's a lot of actual scientific evidence. It's not just science bashing. A bunch of creationists, these people are called the scientists give this name creationists. Oh, you're just like a fanatic, so to say, who just believes in your old 5,000, 2,000-year-old books, which were written by some, people with long beards who didn't know anything. And they are just writing some crap. And you guys are just, doomed to ignorance. And you don't know what is the scientific process and all the science and everything. So very, very scientific analysis is given, refuting many points of Darwinism. So you can read this, and then we can have a more meaningful discussion. Otherwise, it's like speaking past each other. I am very invested in my points. I don't care to understand yours. I will advocate mine. Same thing happens on the other side. You keep advocating yours, and then you keep talking past each other. That's not a fruitful discussion. So these devotees they were scientists by education. Then they became devotees, and then they got so convinced by the Shastras that they used their scientific knowledge to do research and write these books. And actually, they came to the conclusion that, boy, this makes sense. And in fact, a lot of scientists, it's not just about the Vaishnava scientists, but even a lot of other scientists who have nothing to do with any religion have cast doubts on the origin of species. The hardest part is, where did the origin actually occur? Now, I read, now you all have heard of this magazine called Scientific American. A very, very reputed, the most reputed popular science magazine in America. Okay, I'm not talking about magazines like Science or Nature, which actually publish articles or peer-reviewed articles or papers, but this is a popular science magazine, but written by equally well-known scientists. There was an article a few years back on the origin of species, and it was advocating Darwinism. And it had 15 reasons why that is true. I read through it. I have a scientific education. Okay, not one of the points was answering this question, that, or to show exactly how the origin of species might have occurred. The closest they came in one of the 15 points is that life came to Earth on some meteoric rock, and then life sprouted on Earth. Wait a minute, how is that an answer? Okay, maybe if from the amoeba to human beings was an evolution, let's say. Now you're saying that the amoeba came from on a rock from somewhere else. That's also fine. We also say that there is life on other planets. There is Svargaloka and other Bhuvarloka and others. That's fine. How do you explain that that is the origin of that species? Then you have to tell where it came from on that rock. If that rock is coming from another planet, how did it appear there first? You're not answering that question. The question is not how did it come to Earth. The question is, how did it originate in the first place? And then we discussed, I think in one of the previous classes, there was this big, I don't think it won the Nobel Prize, but this experiment by a guy, Stanley Miller, where he did some electric, sparks in a mixture of a few molecules or a few compounds that were assumed to be present at the time of the origin of, or at the time of the formation of Earth. I forget. Obviously, there was water, there was oxygen, there was methane, and there was something else. Okay. And then he got some amino acids from it. And then the conclusion was, okay, through this process, since we got amino acids, from there we can get proteins, from there we can get chromosome, from there we can get DNA molecule, from there we can get a single-celled organism, and then life can take over, and then we have this complex life form like human beings. Everything else, like you have a small line segment or a small thing on a graph, and then you say, if I extrapolate it, I will get a sine curve. Wait a minute, it could as well be a tan curve. How do you know it will be a sine curve? It could be a straight line. It could be a circle. You have such a tiny, that segment is so small, you cannot reasonably extrapolate it to make predictions. So anyway, there are all these legitimate problems that even the non-creationists, there is another term for it called, I'll talk about it, intelligent design, ID. But non-creationists bring up that are sort of problematic with the theory of evolution. Anyway, so long discussion on that, but the point is that through the Bhagavad Gita, this is the most, 14.4 is the most direct statement that our understanding is that it's not that this, all these, we came from the ocean and, some reptiles and then came out and then became humans. So that all is wrong from our understanding. Our understanding is the picture on the right-hand side, that Krishna gave rise to various species. The only strong argument, I'm again a little bit going deeper into the scientific aspect, is that as you go deeper into the Earth's crust, you find fossilized evidence of certain life forms. And it's a fair assumption that the deeper you go, you're going back in time. Okay. And then the deeper you go, the fossils that you find, you don't find fossils of advanced life forms in the upper layers of the in the lower layers of the crust, Earth's crust. So then the question becomes that, okay, these came later. The ones lower in the crust came earlier. That is the natural question. So then you draw your own analysis that the later ones came from or evolved from the lower ones. Well, there is another explanation that God created all the species, but the species were sent on this Earth planet at a certain time for a certain reason. And for example, like even we all know, Matsya Avatar appeared first. Then there was Kurma Avatar. Then there was, so the Lord comes in different forms at different times. And it is certainly possible that if God is an active agent, he can send different life forms at different times. And therefore that could potentially explain this question as well. So again, there are problems on both sides. Then somebody will say, show me God. Where's God? Where is this agent? Okay, then we have to say, okay, you practice your bhakti yoga and you can see God. I cannot show you God in a test tube. Scientists are expert in showing things in a test tube. It doesn't depend whether you have faith in it or not. You mix chemical A and B and it will show the same color, whether you know science or not. Yeah, so sure, but somebody will say, okay, if there is spirit, show me spirit in the test tube. Spiritual element cannot be shown in a test tube. So science is kind of by definition, it is limited to something that is observable by our material senses. Okay, and that is where things begin to break down, and then you kind of begin to talk past each other. Anyway, so good discussion on the scientific aspect. So intelligent design is the another name for, like, God has created various species. One of the another argument is that, okay, fish have eyes, correct? And human beings have eyes. Agreed? Both have eyes. Cats, dogs, everybody in between also has eyes. Okay, so since, let us say, a dog has eyes and fish has eyes, therefore a dog came from a fish. Just a general statement. Okay, possible. It's possible. Okay, if you take something and you mold it and you didn't mold one particular part, you can get that. It's like a Play-Doh. But what is another explanation? What is another explanation? Let me give you another explanation. You have driven a Ford car. You have driven a Tesla. Both have wheels. Both have wheels. So did the Tesla come from the Ford? No. So why both have wheels? Because the same kind of engineer created both those things. He knew that putting wheels in this situation worked great. If you put wheels, the thing moves. There also, the goal is to make a thing move. Whether it's moving by battery or gasoline is a different matter. But to make it move, what's the answer? put wheels and the thing will move. Correct? That thing is called intelligent design. If there is a designer, he will take the aspects that work in a given situation and he will construct the machine. The fish in the water also needs to see. The dog and human being also needs to see. Light passes in water, light passes in air. Give both of those guys an eye. Problem solved. Correct? Now, but to the fish, you have to give fins. So that's where the difference is. Like the Tesla and Ford, you have to give gasoline engine, V6 or whatever, combustible engine, internal combustion engine. To the other guy, you have to give a battery operated engine or a battery operated motor. That's like giving fins versus legs. But for eyes is like wheels. Engineer decides all this, doesn't it? If he has to design a car for Indian roads versus American roads, maybe there'll be some difference, right? He will put better shock absorbers for Indian roads. But for American roads, maybe not. So you look at the various situations in which you have to put the machine and you put the things together accordingly. That process is called intelligent design. So there can be multiple explanations for why dogs have eyes and fish has eyes. Fish also has a heart. Dog has a heart. We have a heart because you have to circulate blood. Okay, you need a pump. So put a pump. Doesn't mean that dog came from fish. Not necessarily. Okay. You don't have to take a Ford car as the base design, remove the internal combustion engine, remove that, then add battery. Do you do that? No, you just take a blank slate and you create the blueprint afresh. Engineer does that. He doesn't take an existing car, remove the things that are not needed and try to retrofit other things. That is theory of evolution. Natural selection. That, some random mutations occur and those give certain properties to that particular species. If that is a beneficial property, he will survive, the others will die out. Natural selection, and that's how upward evolution occurs. But it works. On paper, it works, but it has not been demonstrated. And Bhagavad Gita is saying the opposite. Bija pradah, aham bija pradah pita. Okay, I like to have this kind of discussion, scientific discussion, but I hope it was useful. And these are some of the points that are made in this book and by many other people. There's another person, not a Vaishnava, a scientist, but people label him as a Christian creationist because he maybe has some Christian faith. A lot of scientists also have very strong Christian or faith, and they try to keep it separate. There's another beautiful book called God and Science. This whole shelf is those kind of books. It's also upstairs, I think. It tells, yeah, it's right there. This book, God and Science. This tells of the various types of thinkings. One big chapter in this book is how scientists think, in the sense that those who have faith, those who want to attend church, be friends with their other non-scientist people who believe in God, don't want to kind of, rub them on the wrong side. What kind of things they say? Yes, I believe in God, but, I am also a scientist. Monday to Friday, I am a scientist. But somebody would ask them, then what about this? What about that? Then they have these theories. Oh, God created the first amoeba. From there on, my science takes care of things. Or many other explanations. One of the big explanations is called God of the gaps. Science also cannot explain many things today. Those things you use God to fill. Anything that science has explained, God, thank you. You are no longer needed. My science is good. So the God's size over the last few hundred years has been reducing because science is explaining more and more things. So the God of the gaps is shrinking. So one day will come in the future, maybe science will explain a lot of things. Those scientists will have no God to their God of the gaps will become very small or zero, but they won't live till then. So they are saying, okay, God of the gaps. Anyway, so these are all these terms that I'm using are very heavily used terms in these scientific debates and discussions and all that. Intelligent design, creationism, God of the gaps, all these things. And the two biggest sticking points among all these debates is origin of species and origin of the universe. It's both related to origin. Where did we come from? Where did this world come from? Where did life come from? So that's origin of species and origin of the universe. Those are the two biggest sticking points. And today science has no answer to both of those. And these two have been eternal questions. Okay, anyway, so enough said on that. On the other flip side, by the way, some aspect of this sort of mutation and all is true. It has been shown in the lab. Like I said, from a seedless date or a seeded date, you can have a seedless date. How many of you have purchased seedless watermelons in Costco? Pretty, good, right? Who would want a seeded watermelon? You have to kind of, the whole fun of eating a watermelon is gone. You have to keep spitting out those seeds every 2 seconds. Seedless watermelons, I love them. So that has happened by this sort of genetic mutation, but you cannot convert a watermelon into a cantaloupe. That has not been shown. And on the other side, they say, oh, give it 1 billion years, it will happen. And yeah, we don't live 1 billion years. So nobody can conduct an experiment that lasts that long. Okay, so both sides, and then they will say, show me your God. So both sides, are stuck, so to say. Anyway, so that is the discussion on science. Now let us go into modes. Okay, again, back to the 3 modes. So constitution of the material world. Not chapter. Let's 14.5. Verse 14.5. So constitution of the material world. So the material world is made up of the 3 modes: sattvam, rajas, tama, iti. So these are the 3 modes which constitute the world. Okay. So this entire world is constituted by the 3 modes. Okay. Now the 3 modes, now you can say I'm a good person, or I'm a passionate person, or you can say, oh, he is in the mode of ignorance, I'm in the mode of goodness. So when we say these modes, please listen carefully. Okay. These modes typically apply to behavior of a person, which is true. It's our conditioning, our behavior. We will say he's a very sattvic person, he's a tamasic fellow, kind of thing. But these modes at the deep level are the root elements of material nature. They manifest also in our behavior, but even this pen is made up, this pen here is made up of some combination of sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Even non-living entities.
Everything. This material world, it's like your, I can say, neutron, proton, electron we study in science, right? Or you can say, up quark, down quark, or whatever is the most fundamental element of matter these days. The latest periodic table, whether it is elements or atoms or quarks or whatever it may be, it's strings. These 3 are the fundamental elements of nature, material nature. Everything in material nature is composed of these 3. In their unmanifest state, there is an unmanifest state. Now, again, to be honest, I don't know much about all these technical depths either. This, who knows, this has not been shown in any lab. This is the unmanifest state of these 3 modes is known as pradhana. That is the Sanskrit technical term in the Vedas that you find called pradhana. So this is like your, equivalent of what they say in science, the primordial soup of matter, when before elements, before even atoms, or before even the protons and electrons and neutrons were formed, the primordial soup, so to say. So that is pradhana, which is, in our understanding, the 3 modes. So anyway, forget all that. The point is the entire material world is made up of the three modes. Okay.
Can there also be a combination?
Yes, we are coming to that. Exactly. Yes. Answer is yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Just like electron, proton, neutron. You mix them in the right way, you get iron and you get gold. Correct? Ultimately, what is it? What is the difference between iron and gold? Different number of protons, electrons, and neutrons. Haven't you studied the periodic table? It's just different number. Atomic number is different. That makes difference between iron and gold. So yes, absolutely that is the case. It's coming right here in the very next verse. Lord Krishna will say that. So hold on to that thought. The point is this: as soon as you come in contact with material nature, okay, you come in contact with the modes, the jiva, the living entity. The jiva, which is the spiritual living entity, the soul, is not made up of the modes, because that is not material, that is spiritual. So that is like a person trying to jump into the swimming pool. That little boy who's jumping into the pool, can he stay dry? Can he expect, oh, I want to take a dip into the pool, but I want to stay dry? Is that a valid expectation? No, he will get wet. Similarly, when the soul is in the material world, he will get influenced by the modes. Absolutely, it is not possible to be in the swimming pool and not get wet. So, no embodied being. Embodied means one who has a body, which means not the pure soul. And every living entity in the material world is embodied. That's the very definition of being in the material world. You are embodied. You have a material covering known as body, deha. So no embodied being can escape the material conditioning, which I am calling as sort of getting wet. So you will be conditioned. Because you are in the material world, by definition, you have to be conditioned. The question is, what will you be conditioned with? Goodness, passion, or ignorance, or some combination thereof. You're getting me?
So by this analogy, does the Paramatma also get conditioned because it's one of those two words in the body?
No, wait a minute. So I never said that the embodied being is conditioned in the sense that it will get taken over by the desires of the conditioning. The Paramatma is not taken over by the desires of the conditioning. So the answer to your question is no, Paramatma is not conditioned. Only the Jivatma gets conditioned, and the meaning of conditioning, the Jivatma remains pure, but it gets taken over. The analogy to this that I will explain, I have explained this earlier also, is like you are a passenger of a car. This is explained in one of the Upanishads as well, this exact analogy, not a car, but a chariot. We'll take the example of a car. You called an Uber to go somewhere. The Uber driver, the driver is corrupt. He shows you a gun, or he, with a taser or whatever, he puts you to sleep. And he takes you wherever he wants. Are you following? But would you say that he has convinced you that no, let's go somewhere else? No, he's by force taking you somewhere else. The example in some of the commentaries of Ramayana is also this. Mother Sita is like the Jivatma. Was she ever convinced that I should enjoy with Ravan? No. But was Ravan allowing him to have her full enjoyment of being with Ram? No, he was preventing that. So which means he was forcing his plan on top of the plan of the already pure living entity. So when I say the living entity becomes conditioned, the meaning of that is that the living entity the desire of the living entity is taken over by the desire of the material mind. And the mind then dictates where should the living entity go, what should it do? And the living entity is sort of held hostage to the body. And the body is the one that gets the conditioning or the programming. If it goes in a certain direction, continues, wants to go in that direction. We will see some of that analysis right now in the next few slides. Does that answer some part of the question?
I'll wait for the remaining part. Thank you.
Okay, and these are complex topics. Okay, even the 15 and 20 years of study that I have done is probably not enough to go very deep into the understanding of these topics. So I'm going to tell you that don't expect a very clear aha kind of a experience at the end of the class either. I can give you some understanding, but if this is the sort of the intellectual satisfaction that you want to have, I invite you to, get on to the journey. I won't be able to package it into a little packet and give it to you and have you sort of experience an aha. Probably not going to happen. So just trying to set your expectation.
Thank you.
So that is what 14.5 is saying. Now comes the so very quickly we will go into after next 3 verses, yes, after the next couple of verses, we will discuss this sort of how the modes interact and sort of mix and match together. Before that, let us understand the 3 modes itself. Okay, so goodness, passion, and ignorance. We know that. Sattva, Rajas, and Tama or Tamas. Which one is the best one? All of you want your children to be in what mode? So I said children, okay. We all want others to be. So which mode do you all want your children to be in? Sattvic mode, right? Like everybody says, can you please teach Bhagavad Gita to my child? Okay, I'll definitely, but what about you? So anyway, so we want always the best for our children. So mode of goodness is that. But there's a very, very important concept here. We all understand that mode of goodness is the best. But it is the best, purest mode, but it is still a mode. Mode means what? Material mode. I should have added the word material. This entire discussion of modes is at a material level. The mode is material. It is an element of material nature. Spiritual element doesn't have the influence of modes at all. So it is the purest among, you can say it is the, what you call the least worse, you can say. Okay, like you say, no, I have to choose among the worst options, the best among the worst options. So this is the best among the worst. So what it does, it illuminates. And we will see later, it illuminates with the desire for knowledge. So that is how illumination occurs in the mode of goodness, or in the mode of goodness, it illuminates one with knowledge. It does not lead to any sinful reactions. Mode of goodness, now we are going a little bit into the behavior aspect. Okay. The mode of goodness does not lead to any sinful reactions. It does not mean that it does not produce any reaction. It does produce reactions, but the pious reactions. It produces sweet fruits, not the sour or the bitter fruits, but it still produces fruits. Okay. And what is the fruit? What is the binding that it causes? It still binds one to sukh, to happiness. What is the meaning of that? This is the important point. What I said is an extremely important concept. Please try to get it. You all want to be with good people? What kind of a friend do you want?
Good friends.
You want a tamasic friend or a sattvic friend? Sattvic friend, he will always be a nice person. So we all want a good friend. So mode of goodness also binds. It's also binding. You see the verse here, Badhnati. In all the 3 verses which describe each of these modes, you will see the word Badhnati. Badhnati means it binds. It binds one to being happy. So one is very attached. There are still attachments. Going back to the attachments discussion we had long back. One is attached to being happy. So try telling a good person, very good person, you know what? You're not good enough. What will happen? Maybe if he's very good, Huh?
Bomb will-
Could go off. Well, that depends. Maybe not. So that depends to what extent he is good. If he's really good and he has practiced his mode of goodness a lot, maybe it will take a lot of provocation before the bomb goes off. Or maybe the bomb will never go off, but internally he will simmer. Or maybe some effect will be there. If literally there is no effect, zero, means he is not in the mode of goodness. He is beyond the mode of goodness. He is not bound at all. So mode of goodness being still, there is attachment to being happy that I am a good person. That ahankara, which is the root of, that's the first covering over the soul. Ahankar. I am good. Even if it is there to the minor of the minorest, smallest degree, it is still there. Okay. And that is what is one is bound to. Okay. Being good. I am good. So you try to, provoke, and at some point it will give. It will, it could break. Okay. That depends on how much you provoke. So that is mode of goodness. So this is the hardest to understand. What is better than mode of goodness? That's the best. No, he's a good person. No. Try telling a good person you're not good enough. Then you will see. The others are easier to understand. Mode of passion. So,
Prabhuji, can you explain one more time when you say on the previous slide, the mode of goodness also binds?
it binds to a result. You want something. There's a desire. You are attached. There is some attachment to something material. The satisfaction of being good.
And that's the sukh that you're talking
The
about.
sukham, yes. No, the sukham doesn't bind you. You are attached to it, or you are bound to the sukh, the feeling of the sukh. That is your like feeder. You cut that feeder pipe, you will begin to what you call, as if like a fish out of water. That's what's giving you the feeling of existence. That's feeding your ahankar. I am good. So you go around, keep doing good activities. Externally, you may not even want something in return. Internally, you are like, I am doing good. I'm doing a good thing. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. It's feeding the ahankar. You tell a good person, you know what? You tried to help me. You didn't help me enough. Or you thought you helped me. I didn't feel helped. What help have you done? Oh my God. You have cut his what you call supply line, happiness supply line. That's the happiness that he's bound by, or he's attached to. Again, don't go too much into the English language. Bound to, bound by. That's what he's attached to. That's what is feeding his ahankar. That's what's giving him a meaning in life. What is ahankar? Gives somebody a meaning. Everybody wants to walk with a little title. That's ahankar. CEO. Our CTO, what was that guy? Justin Ratner. Remember him? The day he was declared CTO, next day I saw in the parking lot. He even bragged about it in an open forum. That next day I went and rewarded myself with the latest and greatest BMW, and the license plate was CTO. So I used to walk by sometimes, and see his BMW parked with the license plate CTO. That's his ahankar. CTO. Some people in Intel have this license plate. What's that? 80386. They worked on that famous whatever processor 80. The license plate is that. I was the architect of 80386. Maybe you've seen that license plate or something like that. I saw a license plate, Marom. License plate itself was Marom. It was one of the code names of a product. Anyway, so this is very common. So that's what's feeding their ahankar. Now that's maybe in the mode of passion. So mode of passion. So is rajoguna or rajah guna. And by its association, one is attached to unlimited desires. So many desires. I want this, I want this, I want this. Material things, of course. A good person will say, no, I don't want anything. I just want the internal feeling of being good. That too within myself. I don't want anybody to tell me I'm good. I just want to know myself that I am good. Here there is external. I want acknowledgement. I want others to acknowledge and appreciate me. And bound to fruitive activities. He'll do a lot of stuff. These guys work 18 hours, 20 hours. From, junior CTO to senior CTO, from junior fellow to senior fellow, from junior X to senior X. They'll work their butts off to get that, additional few characters on their title. So that is called, and which leads to further desires. There is no ending to those desires. And the reactions could be pious or sinful. If you're doing it dharmically, the results could be pious. Usually, as you have seen in many, many cases, once that you taste blood, then you say, okay, it's too hard to work in the correct way. So I will, take the shortcut or take the sinful route. So from one promotion to the next, you worked hard. From here to the next one, now you'll do politics. Happens all the time, isn't it? So sinful reactions come. All right. So usually, but it's the reactions theoretically could be pious or sinful, but very soon it kind of, when you taste the blood of those results, then your sense gratification causes you to, the desire for more and more and more causes you to start taking shortcuts, and shortcuts are usually sinful.
I have a question. So the terminology like being workaholic, who just love to do the work, doesn't matter what, but you just want to be engaged all the time.
Maybe that's in the mode of goodness. But if the workaholicism is in order to get something material, then that is passion. Maybe somebody is just work. Maybe it's you have to it's conditional based on the context. Workaholic for what? Maybe somebody is for some name, fame, like Steve Jobs, working. What is his salary? $1. I draw $1 salary and I work 20-hour days. Oh, that's passion. That's not goodness. There's a lot of, declaration is there. I'm declaring to the world, see how hardworking and how smart and how, renounced, or, how what a sacrifice I'm doing. But it's kind of in the mode of passion. Not everybody may want to work only for the salary. It could be for n number of reasons. And then goodness could be something more than that. More subtle, more internal. Okay. So that is mode of passion. And mode of ignorance is basically completely like a gone case. And I will show an example as well a little later. You'll see that it comes from complete ignorance, or even if knowledge was there, it's taken over by ignorance. Knowledge is covered by ignorance. Knowledge will be there, but it's now completely suppressed. You will say, this person was such a good person, and now he has become such a criminal. Like that kind of complete devolution could occur, and it binds one to madness, pramad, alasya, and nidra. These are the three Sanskrit words that are there in the verse 14.8. Pramad, alasya, and nidra. Okay, so hopefully none of us are in that state. So this is how sort of the devolution, sort of, we say evolution of species. Actually, it's devolution. This is how the species, or at least human beings, would devolve. First, there is the boundness or the binding or attachment to feeling good. I am good. Just internal feeling. I am a good person. Okay. Then something happens, some trigger happens, something doesn't go the way they want. Then one tries to stay happy. No, I must be happy. I'm happy. Something is now forcing him, is challenging his happiness. Like I just gave the example. The passion to stay happy sets in. Can you see? That is passion. That is rajas. The rajas to stay in sattva. Slightly the rajas creeps in. And then slowly one like this devolves into the mode of passion. Then one becomes addicted to that sense gratification. That I want to be happy. And it could be many things. I don't want others to disturb my happiness. Or I want others to acknowledge that how good or happy or whatever I am. You're now going from purely internal to a little bit external. And sooner or later, this desire for some kind of sense gratification, it could be for the sense gratification of happiness. Later on, it could be something more material, for money, for whatever, fame, name, whatever it could be. And then one begins to want that at any cost. The moment this any cost comes in, then one begins to do sinful activities. Isn't it? That is sinful activity at any cost. I want this at any cost, by hook or by crook. What is a crook? Sinful activity. If you cannot get it by a hook, you get it by crook. And then one performs in sinful actions to obtain this sense gratification, and then that way one devolves into the mode of ignorance. Typical scenario, if one just flows with the current. It's not unusual. It's often seen in the world around us. You don't need Bhagavad Gita to tell you this. Any example comes to mind of this? In stories or in history? I had a few examples that came to mind, and I have selected one from a story.
Brahma is a good example. He used to be a good person, good Brahmin, did all the tapas and all. And then when he didn't get what he wanted, he desired something else.
Well, he desired to be a very powerful Brahmin. So his tapasya was for some sense gratification. Yeah. Beyond that, the history is not known, at least to me. Maybe before that, he was literally a very good person. So I have read a little bit of Shakespeare. How many of you know the story of Macbeth? Have you any of you know Macbeth online here in the room? I thought that was a very good example how, if you know the story, you should read it. Shakespeare's plays are not just like good plays, but they bring out human character, for example. That's why they are famous or very, celebrated. This guy was such a good person. He was a dedicated, committed general to the king. What was the name of the king? Duncan. Duncan? No.
I don't know.
Yeah, Duncan or something. Somebody can look up. Very dedicated, and how he ends up and he gets into is bad association. So we'll say get associated with the bad modes and the bad association was his wife, Lady Macbeth, who then, Khan Bharna, like Manthara, Kaikeyi Manthara. Yeah, Kaikeyi is actually a very good example. I should have thought of that one. Such a good mother, and became, completely opposite because of some association of the bad modes. So how that whole devolution occurs, but in the Macbeth story, like the devolution is kind of shown how to what, especially to the level of mode of ignorance, how he ends up murdering the king, and then he ends up murdering a witness who saw him. Typically, that's what happens. You think one murder and I'm done. Okay, one was the necessary thing. I had to do this murder. One thing, God forgive me, no more, end of story. And then you suddenly find out, oh, there was a witness. Abhi to witness ko bhi khatam karna padega. And then you murder the witness, and then that creates another witness. Then you have to finish him off as well. And this and that and that. And then, he becomes completely crazy. At the end of the day, he is like completely like a crazy fellow. Like literally he goes crazy. That is mode of ignorance. All right. So this is how devolution typically occurs. Now comes this 10th verse which tells that how these modes are not just three binary buckets or ternary buckets, tertiary, three like distinct buckets. They act like three colors, red, blue, green. If you mix them in the right proportion, how many colors can you get? Infinite. Mix them in X number of proportions and you can get any color, infinite number of colors you can get. So similarly, there are infinite number of natures within a man or a woman or a person, whatever. And also within a person, it's not like, oh, you have a certain label. You are 52% goodness, 30% passion, whatever is remaining, 82, so 18% ignorance for your rest of your life. Your combination, your ID is 52, 30, 18. No. It changes based on maybe, a person may be really very good with his family. Look at Hiranyakashipu. He was very nice to Prahlad. Initially, he wanted his son to become a good demon. He sent him to the best demon school. But unfortunately, he started saying that, Vishnu is the best person. And that's what made Hiranyakashipu so upset. So he was very nice to his child, but to the others, he was, a murderer, terrorist. So depending on a person, depending on who you're dealing with or the time of day, maybe you saw a nice movie, or maybe, you had a good cup of tea, you may feel very nice. Or maybe, you had a bad day at work and you come home and, give a piece of your mind to your spouse. Has that happened? And then immediately spouse says, did you have a bad day at work? Yeah. So you're, you kind of, so depending on the time of day, the situation, who you're dealing with, etc., your behavior or your mode could change. But this is what keeps programming you. Okay. Sometimes you may feel that, oh, I should not bring the tension of my work to home. So when I come home, I should really, if you have the wife gives you a piece of her mind, don't do this again with me, otherwise I'll leave you and I'll, go away. Then you'll get, oh my God, I'll never do that. You get programmed. So external inputs then begin to program you, and that's what creates your sort of further conditioning, layer over layer over layer. Okay, or if your wife humbly takes the nonsense that you dish out, then maybe next day you will keep increasing more and more, and then next day you will even, lift your hand, and then you'll lift a stick, and one day you will go to jail for abuse. And that, it could devolve or it could stop, whatever may be the situation. So it can change. It's not constant. The point of this discussion is, since it can devolve, it can also evolve. That is the whole point. So however bad you may think you are, there's always a way up. Yes, definitely there's a way down, but there's also a way up. Okay. So the modes are in constant competition with each other. That's what's being said in verse number 10. So 11 to 13, now we'll progress quickly through the chapter, are saying that, one second, battery may be running out over here. Okay, here it's 100%. So let's switch that. So you can still hear me and see me on Zoom? Okay, great, thanks. So symptoms of the three modes. So again, the mode of goodness is knowledge. So the mode of goodness prompts one to build knowledge, to build your knowledge. Knowledge, what kind of knowledge? The ability to see things in the right perspective. Like just the example I gave. Hey, just because I had a bad day at my workplace is no reason to, share my upset with my family members who love me. So that's knowledge. that, that's not something I would like if they did it to me. That's like called seeing things in the right perspective. And then you may stop doing that to them because you think, wow, that's not, making sense. I would not like it if I was on the other side. So why should I do? Same thing, they might be having they have the same heart as I do. They don't have a heart of stone that they will not feel it and I will feel it. You see, seeing things in the right perspective. So that is and that's knowledge, isn't it? A smart person or a person with knowledge would think like this. A person without that desire for knowledge will not think like this. He'll say, I don't care. I'll give a piece of my mind to them. Who cares? They are supposed to suffer. I'm providing for their food and shelter. This is the cost they have to pay. One could think like that. Okay. So goodness is the one of the characteristics or symptoms of the mode of goodness is the desire to build knowledge. And here knowledge is something which is the perspective, the knowledge to see things in the right perspective. That is jnana. Remember I was talking last week about the line. A simple line going up and down can give heart attack to people or can make them feel happy. The only thing is that line should be the line of the stock market. If it goes up, people feel happy. A person who knows about what the line means, that line is everything for them, right? It's their lifeline. So that is seeing in the right perspective. That line means a lot. For a ignorant person, illiterate person, you will say, what's that? It's just a line. Let me draw a line for you on the blackboard. No, that line is not useful. The real line is the line of the stock exchange. That is the perspective. So again, passion, great attachment to material sense gratification, uncontrollable desire and hankering. And for that, intense endeavor. That intense endeavor and all is missing in mode of ignorance. He is not even willing to put it. He has given up. He's like doesn't even care for his own body. He just says, I'm completely giving up. And just kind of is on a well-known or expected downward spiral. Okay. Then next 5 verses, 14 to 18, I'm going to summarize, are the results and destinations of the people in the 3 modes. So in the mode of goodness, it takes you to higher planets or to a position of purity. The mode of passion leads you to what is known as middle planets, where the passionates reside, and ultimately it leads to misery. There is some temporary happiness, misery, happiness, misery, happiness, misery. Slowly the misery increases, happiness decreases, and at some point it transitions into mode of ignorance. Okay. Lower planets among lower species. So just 5 verses, you can read it at your own leisure, but that is the essence. So now starts the main topic for this discussion. This is the Jnanam uttamam portion. Remember we talked about it in the beginning of the chapter, Jnanam uttamam. What is the Jnanam uttamam? Jnanam uttamam is don't stay at the mid level of the modes. Transcend the modes. Transcend means go beyond the modes. Don't remain stuck. Yes, definitely where you are, go up. But it's not that the mode of goodness is the highest level. Go beyond the mode of goodness. So transcending the modes means to know the modes. First of all, you got to know, right? See the modes in action. Now, know means what? Knowledge, isn't it? So have the desire to attain the knowledge of how the material world works, what it means to be a good person. See the modes in action. Read Shakespeare maybe out of it. You learn something about human character. Shakespeare is a great teacher of human character or others, whatever. And no need to read that. Read just Srimad Bhagavatam. You'll get a lot to learn of human character. Read Mahabharata. That's the best place to learn about human character. You don't even need any Shakespeare. It will tell you about the worst of the worst and the best of the best. Worst of the worst, Duryodhan. You will see how I have incredibly manipulative and like snake-hearted, snake, literally like poison. And the good of the best. Who is that? Yudhishthir. Whatever you do to him, he just doesn't, he's like, oh my God, he's like, he'll walk right into the trap. It's like, dude, this is a trap. No, I know it's a trap, but I'll walk into it. So the worst of the worst and the best of the best. So all of that is there. So that comes by knowledge. And so that's what Lord Krishna is saying. Gunebhyascha paramam veti. Veti means to get the knowledge of it. And then finally transcend the modes. So, and then by transcending the modes means moksha. Because once you have transcended the modes, which means you have transcended material nature. That means moksha. Mad bhavam swa adhigacchati. You will come to me, which means you will get liberation. So what is beyond the modes? Moksha. Okay. So the purpose of this discussion, okay, that we will discuss a little later, at least in the slides I have it a little later. So what Krishna says in the next verse, 14.20, is that transcending the modes makes one free from the modes. Gunan etan atitya trin. Trin means from these three modes. When one goes above these, then the problems of the material world, there are four main problems of the material world, ultimately. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Dukkha, or Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, as it is called. Birth, death, old age, and disease. These are the four fundamental problems of material life. So you will go beyond this. So a person who has transcended the modes is called guna atita. You will see this term. Remember this term. It's going to be used in this chapter and in the subsequent chapters. Guna atita means one who has transcended the modes. Okay. So the discussion is about, so Arjuna asks this question. What are the symptoms of and the behavior of, and most importantly, how to become a guna atita person? That is his question. How to become a guna atita person? Okay. So Lord Krishna is not telling this whole concept of the three modes to bring you. See, this question came after Lord Krishna introduced guna atita. Correct? So Lord Krishna already tells Arjuna that this whole discussion I had with you is not so that you can just come to mode of goodness and stay there. No. Go beyond the modes. You following? Then Arjuna asks how to go beyond the modes. Okay. So here is the main point I wanted to convey. Why discuss the whole modes? I just told you. The answer is that not to just stay at the mode of goodness. Well, then you can ask the question, why describe so much about all the modes? You can just say, go beyond the modes.
To understand what the modes are.
So that?
You can understand what the modes are.
So that?
Escape from that modes.
Escape from the modes. Which mode you have to escape from?
All three modes.
All three modes. Okay. But which one you have to finally escape from?
Goodness.
Goodness. So the answer is first come to the mode of goodness. If you are in mode of passion, primarily again, it is a mixture and it changes. But the 10th verse, if you read, it says that typically one of the modes is dominant. And usually for a person, the same mode is dominant all the time. Mostly. Other than with very, very near dear ones, maybe he's in a mode of goodness. Otherwise with friends, colleagues, neighbors, strangers, same kind of, one will say he's a jerk. Another one will also say he's a jerk. Another one, they'll all concur that he's a jerk. Right? There won't be a split opinion. So once a jerk, always a jerk. So that is the dominant mode, I'm saying. There could be, or once a good person, always, everybody will typically, that person is really nice. So there's a dominant mode, but it doesn't mean that it is there given or it is constant all the time. But there is a dominant mode. So if the dominant mode was ignorance, then try to come to passion. If it was passion, come to goodness. So for that reason, the details have been discussed so that you can go from n to n+1. Are you following? But the goal should be to come to the mode of goodness. That should be the goal. Why? Because the mode of goodness is the best platform for becoming a guna atita person. Just like an airport is the best place to take a flight. Correct? If you want to take a flight, what is the best place to take a flight from? From your home? From your backyard? No, from the airport. So you first make the effort to go to the airport, then the flight will take you. So try to go there. Okay. So that is the reason why this whole discussion has been there, so that people can realize that yes, there is value in even going to mode of passion. If I am in the mode of ignorance, better. And if I am there, then to go to mode of goodness, even better. If my end goal is spirituality, you cannot just say, I'll remain passionate and somehow I will read Bhagavad Gita, I will do something, but I am going to remain a passionate jerk and hope for spiritual progress. No, that's like saying, I'm sitting in my backyard and I want to catch the flight. No. You can't expect that. Okay. Now, in some cases, like Valmiki Rishi, he was a hunter. Narad Muni touched him and he immediately became a saint. So it's like, if you're having a heart attack and you call 911, maybe the aeroplane will come to your backyard. But that is an exceptional scenario. Don't hope for that. Okay. If you want to sit in the flight and go somewhere, best thing is you first go to the airport. So become a good person. The message here is people are like, I'll be like a super, I know I'm passionate guy. After reading 14th chapter, yes, I can clearly say I am a guy in mode of passion. And I want to make spiritual progress. Tell me how. I will say, sorry, I don't have an answer. You have to go to the mode of goodness. You have to try sincerely, try to make progress, however slow it might be, but try to go there. That is the mandatory gate. It is a prerequisite. So that is the message of one part of the message of this chapter 14. Okay. So I won't go through this in detail because also we are short on time. And we have covered these aspects in other portions of Bhagavad Gita. The symptoms and behavior of a guna atita person who has completely transcended the modes. Like we took that example of trying to tell a good person, you're not good enough, remember? So if he is guna atita, like we said, there is no even tinge of ahankar, which means he's guna atita. What will happen? You keep provoking him, what will happen?
He won't react.
Nothing. That's exactly what is mentioned in these 4 verses. Completely free of the sense of honor and dishonor. That's exactly what is written here. Look at the 25th verse. Man apamanayos tulyas. Tulyas means balanced. As much one side you keep filling up with apaman, the balance will not tilt. He is equipoised. Right? And the rest of the verses are also saying the similar thing. Sama lotshama kanchanaha means sama, looking same as stone and gold. Same things. So now you understand, right? So if there is zero, if one is truly guna atita, then any amount of provocation will not have any effect. That is guna atita. Follow? So this 4 verses, 22, 23, 24, and 25 are describing the behavior and the symptoms. Those were the 2 questions, right? Symptoms and behavior of a guna atita person. The third one is very important. How to become a guna atita person. How to become such a person. So here is the beauty of, what do you think is the answer? How to become a guna atita person? The answer is also bhakti. So bhakti does 2 things. Okay. Actually, it does 3 things. We'll talk about 2 right now. We'll talk about all 3. It cleanses your heart of the anarthas. Anartha means whatever it may be, mode of ignorance, mode of passion. Plus, it takes you closer to God. Both it does. Okay? Together it does. So by doing bhakti sincerely, now bhakti not namesake. If you want to find the difference between this, listen to yesterday's class. Yesterday we did a whole class on Upadeshamritam, verse number 8. In detail, we discussed this topic of, serious bhakti. So, do bhakti seriously, and we will see Krishna injects that word, serious bhakti. He will inject it. I am not saying, Krishna is saying. Then it will also remove the sinful propensities. It will make you come to the mode of goodness. Plus, it will make you spiritually progress as well. Okay? And what is the third thing it does? This is the most beautiful. The third thing is that it gives satisfaction to the soul. It awakens the soul which had been put to sleep, remember? It begins to awaken. The soul begins to wake up and say, wow, now I'm feeling good. I was suppressed so far, like Mother Sita being released. Or when Hanuman comes, she gets a ray of hope. So that is what bhakti does. And in the Shastras, in Bhagavatam, this is mentioned. Just like food for a hungry person, it does 3 things together. Have you all fasted on any time? Like full day fast. Next day, how does food look like? When the stomach is full, then if I bring a nice plate of food, what does it look like? Oh, thank you. You'll put it in the fridge. But after full day Nirjal fast, then, even not so good food, tasty food will look like Amrit, isn't it? So imagine yourself in that situation. What does food do? Food does tushti, pushti, and santushti. Okay. Tushti means what? Tushti means fulfillment of your hunger. Pushti means nourishment. It gives nourishment, energy, whatever food, carbohydrates or whatever, calories. It gives pushti to your body. And most important, first morsel, first bite of food, wow, after fast is so blissful, santushti. That is what bhakti does to a spiritually, person who has been, we have all been fasting spiritually. We have not touched spiritual progress. So we have been fasting in that sense. Bhakti is the answer. So let us see what Krishna says in next verse, 14.26. This is the most important verse of chapter 14, which tells how to transcend the modes, how to become a guna atita. person. That's what Arjuna is asking, how to become a guna atita. And what does Krishna say? So, Mam chayo Seriasena bhakti yogena sevate. Seriasena. What is the word there? Avyabhicharena. Avyabhicharena means serious. The Sanskrit meaning of avyabhichari bhakti means unbroken. Unbroken means serious. Like, you tell your child, do your studies. 4 hours straight, he's doing that. Not like, 10 minutes and then watching YouTube, chatting on the phone, Facebook Messenger, Discord. These are the new age. We use WhatsApp, they use Discord. So these are, that kind of thing they will do. And then, 2 hours gone, no progress, homework still not done. Not that kind of bhakti. Serious bhakti, which is avyabhicharena. So that is when I said serious bhakti, it means avyabhicharena. Mam, bhakti to whom? Krishna, Mam. So there are several important points here. I have colored them in various colors. Mam, Krishna bhakti. Mam cha yo avyabhicharena, unbroken. That's the second point. Bhakti yogena, not jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. Directly the word is there, bhakti yogena. Sevate, and serve. There is service involved in bhakti. Bhakti just doesn't mean, oh, I'm just sitting, not armchair bhakti. Bhakti that is full of action. So you do seva to Krishna. You use all your faculties that are present, your hands, legs, body, all that. And we have discussed so many times the 9 limbs of bhakti, the Navadha bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So mind is also a limb, is a sense organ. It's counted as one of the 11 indriyas. 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, and then 1 mana. So mind, then archanam. What is archanam? You use all your body parts. You go and, do worship of the Lord. Vandanam. So all those are limbs of bhakti. So, Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityaitan. That is how you become guna atita. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. And you become eligible for liberation. Brahma bhuyaya. Brahma bhuyaya. Now here Brahman is that spiritual Brahman. So you become eligible for liberation. Okay. So these are the points. By unbroken bhakti, which includes service to Krishna, by bhakti, not by any other process. So these are the points that Lord Krishna is directly telling in this verse. And then I had this question, how to render service to Krishna? We already discussed. Through one of the 9 processes. And there can be again mixtures and, it's not like 1 out of 9. And then if I'm doing 1, you could do more than 1. You could have mixtures and, there's a whole science of how to do bhakti. We will be starting that whole discussion actually now in our Saturday discussion, which is on Nectar of Devotion book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. How to do bhakti. Very detailed discussion on how to do bhakti will come. So how to render bhakti yoga to Krishna, that's the thing. And finally, this is, I think, the last slide. Liberation. What is the meaning of liberation? Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So one becomes eligible for liberation. Then this is a very, very important verse for some discussion and debates. 14.27 is often used in a lot of debates with those who, remember in 13th chapter, there was a verse I told you. So we know that about Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Okay, all 3 are different and are sort of understandings of that same absolute truth. Now, which one is higher, which one is lower? So this verse clearly is the single most important verse in the entire Bhagavad Gita, which tells which one is higher. This is not the most important verse of Bhagavad Gita. No. But this is the verse, most important one, to answer that debate or to make a point in the debate that Bhagavan is the highest, the Bhagavan understanding. What it says, Brahmano hi pratishtha aham. That's the first line. Pratishtha means what?
Fixing.
There are two meanings of pratishtha. One meaning of pratishtha is like some kind of a respect or a sort of a a sense of accomplishment or status. Another meaning of pratishtha is what I think one of you said, which is the foundation. That is the meaning of pratishtha here, because the other meaning doesn't make sense. And all our acharyas have commented on this like this. So pratishtha. So which one comes first? The foundation comes first or the structure comes first? Foundation. Can the structure exist without a foundation? Can the foundation exist without a structure? Yes, you go to India, you will see so many unfinished projects. The contractor ran away, the money was exhausted, whatever, and you will see just the foundation, isn't it? So many bridges, roads, only the foundation is laid and then nothing above. At least before that, there was some tuta-futa road. Now there is just a, foundation for a flyover, no flyover. It's happened so many times in Bangalore when we were living. So foundation can exist without a structure, but structure cannot exist without a foundation. So who is the cause and who is the effect? The structure is the cause or the foundation is the cause? Foundation is the cause. Whichever gives rise to the next one is the cause. Whatever is risen is the effect. So all these things, so Brahmano hi pratishtha aham. So who is the cause? Krishna, aham. And Brahman is the effect. And our Vaishnava understanding is that Brahman is nothing but the sort of the impersonal, we could say it is the light or the energy or the vibration coming from the person Krishna. These are all just English words. Then vibration, then you'll ask what frequency is the vibration, what's the wavelength? No answer. So, but the point is Krishna is the cause and Brahman is the effect. So who is superior? Krishna or Brahman? Krishna. The Mayavadis, the wrong understanding is Brahman is the cause. Krishna is the effect. From the Brahman, Krishna came. It is a deteriorated form of Brahman. That's not correct at all. You'll say, oh, Ram is a deteriorated effect of Brahman. And the deterioration is he gets sad when he loses his wife. That's what a material person would feel, right? On losing the wife, he will cry. There's a whole deeper meaning to why Lord Ram was sad and all that. There is that love in separation. I think we discussed it in various classes. So this loving relationship between the Lord and his purest devotees like Mother Sita or the gopis, etc. There is love in separation. And the Lord wants to experience that intense love with his devotees. And the highest love is in separation, not in union. So for that reason, the Lord enacts those leelas to express, to experience that intensity of love. Anyway, so those will not understand those people and they will say, see, Ram is just an ordinary man. He is a deteriorated form of the Brahman. That's completely wrong. And this verse, Brahmano hi pratishtha aham, from Bhagavad Gita, they will also accept Bhagavad Gita. Yes, we accept Bhagavad Gita. But when you ask them the meaning of this verse, they will give some convoluted answer. It's a straight understanding. Brahmano hi pratishtha aham. I am the pratishtha of the Brahman, which means I am the source of the Brahman, and 6 more things. He's also saying 6 more. I am the pratishtha of what? Amritasya, avyayasya, shashvatasya, dharmasya, sukhasya, aitikantasya cha. So I am the source of all these things. I am the source of immortality. I am the source of dharma. I am the source of the real happiness, sukhasya. I am the source of eternality, avyayasya. And I am the source of ultimate existence. So I am the source of all these things. So that is where the chapter ends. Okay. So to realize that Krishna is the topmost person, and we should do a vyabhicharini bhakti to that Krishna, not to the Brahman aspect of Krishna, but directly to Krishna. So there the chapter ends. We have completed chapter 14 today. Okay, let's see if there are questions or discussion. I don't see anything on the chat. And anything, anyone? Everything is perfectly clear. Okay, so while you are thinking of questions, we will have maybe 15th chapter, then 16th, 17th. I'll try to do it in one class. So that's 2 classes, 15th, then 16th, 17th, and maybe 2 classes for 18th. Since 18th is the longest chapter of Bhagavad Gita and very, very important, I'll split it into 2. So approximately my plan is 4 more classes and we are done. Next week, we will not have. Yeah, we probably won't have a class next week. Okay. We'll see. Watch out for the announcement. Most 80% no class next week. My spiritual master, my Guru Maharaj, is arriving here in Portland. His name is His Holiness Romapad Swami, and he will be giving discourses from Tuesday till Sunday morning. So Sunday evening is still free slot, but we'll be very busy with various things and all, and various seva and everything. So we might not do a class, but you are very welcome to attend all the other discourses that he will do during the week, starting from day after tomorrow. So if you're part of the temple email list, you will get those details. Now, I wanted to very quickly talk about what next. So we do these Saturday classes. We are doing this Friday discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So many opportunities are there. And then worldwide, many devotees are doing many things. There's no shortage of avenues to make spiritual progress in the Vaishnava tradition, in the Vaishnava line. Beyond the Vaishnava, also there's a lot of things, and even Mayavadi and this and that, at least better than materialism, gross materialism, at least Mayavadi understanding, at least you'll make some spiritual, whatever progress. Anyway, so if you want to, I'm just saying, if anybody is very seriously interested in enrolling for the next level of the sort of the course called Bhakti Shastri, I will have very few spots available for very serious and committed students, like 3 or 4. So if anybody is interested, you can talk to me for the details. We cover 4 books. Bhagavad Gita is half of it. Another half is 3 smaller books. One which we are doing, Upadeshamrit. One will be the Nectar of Devotion, just the first volume of it, or the first part of it, which is a thin size book. And Ishopanishad, which is the topmost Upanishad among the 108 Upanishads. There'll be homework, there'll be tests. You have to memorize verses. You have to do some japa as part of the commitment to make progress. The goal is to really make progress, not to just become a vidwan, become a scholar. Nobody is interested in making anybody a scholar. We have already too many scholars in the world. The goal is to make devotees, practicing devotees. So it's not for the faint-hearted by any stretch. So, but that opportunity is available for the serious person. Anyway, that is one thing. Otherwise, please, keep yourself engaged in spiritual discussion. Bhagavad Gita is like the basic understanding. One becomes aware of what is Sanatana Dharma and what is the core message. Any branch of Hinduism, Bhagavad Gita is the standard textbook. There is no branch of Hinduism which will say, okay, Bhagavad Gita we don't believe in. And we have gone through the Sanskrit of Bhagavad Gita, so there is very little room to even misinterpret it. I hope you feel that you have gotten the real message of Bhagavad Gita. That's why Srila Prabhupada calls it Bhagavad Gita as it is, not some mirch masala convoluted diverted version like 14.27. You'll see 20 different interpretations, and I don't know how people are very clever. They can make I have seen that in Intel. Customer says X and they will come internally and say no, he said Y, which is completely opposite of X. And I was like, dude, I was in the room, that's not what he said. No, he meant this. We are very expert at completely twisting and turning and explaining it in a completely opposite way. We all know that art. So commentators on Bhagavad Gita can very nicely use their skills to misinterpret it. But if you read the Sanskrit, it's fairly straightforward to understand what Krishna is saying. So with that understanding, hopefully you are inspired to take it on as a lifelong journey. It shouldn't ideally be just a 6-month, 5-month engagement and back to material life. So if any of it made sense, if it inspired you, then obviously you should take the next step, because this is a lifelong journey. It is not something like you do it and been there, done that, and forget it. So many options are available. Take advantage of those options. We have a temple in Hillsborough. We meet every Sunday. We have nice kirtan, nice prasadam. But the most important part is way of life, changing our way of life, modifying our way of life to make it around Krishna Bhakti. So please take those steps. That is my request. Okay. Contact me if you have any questions about any of this. So 4 more classes will be done, hopefully.
Bhakti Shastri is not the only next step. They can just come for the other
Come for the
classes
Bhagavatam
without
classes. But again,
homework, tests.
yeah, but
just
over the
use
years, just listening, and then 20 years go away. Like, okay, I've just been coming to all the classes. It's like, drinking the juice. It's good juice, good, sweet. But seriousness, okay, may not be now, maybe 2 years later. Hopefully it won't be 20. Okay, last and final call. Any other questions?
So after 4 weeks, there's going to be the same rushed class or detailed?
No, okay. So the question is, after 4 weeks or when we finish this, probably we'll start the new batch. I don't know. We will keep doing these Bhagavad Gita batches.
The fast-paced.
But the fast-paced version. I'm not going to do that long version probably ever. Maybe in the Bhakti Shastri, we do Bhagavad Gita, they will get a longer flavor of it. But this probably will do it next year. Like I think this January to June, July model works good. I need a break as well.
We used to do September earlier, but we'll see.
We'll see. Again,
coincide with the school year.
it's not a
But
it's
it
not
also
a public
depends on-
university that we have to stick to a semester schedule or anything.
We'll see, yeah.
Apne baap ka raaj hai. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much for joining in the Bhagavad Gita discussion, and we'll see you in, watch out for the announcement. We might see you next week. Otherwise, we'll see you the following week.
And even if we do it will be online only.
Yeah, and if, yeah, we'll see. Just watch out for the announcement. Most likely we'll just skip next week. There'll be too much going on. Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.